All right, to start our process for today, make sure that your workspace is completely set up. I have my newspaper down. I have a smock on because remember our plaster stains. I've got my water cup here for dipping. I have my little pair of scissors, pile of plaster, my face form. Okay, and before I do anything, what I'm going to do is prep my materials. So right now what I have is strips of plaster gauze. So gauze is kind of a loosely woven fabric, and this white stuff that is on it is plaster. Okay, when you dip this in water, it activates the plaster and it heats up ever so slightly, not hot at all, and as it sets, it gets harder. Okay, so eventually this will be very, very hard if mixed, if added to the water. But before we do anything else, we're actually not going to use this in strip form. I have it pre-cut to strips, but what you're going to do is use your scissors and cut these little like 1-inch patches, okay, that look like this. We're keeping them small because we're going to apply them to the face form like so, and we want all of the details of the face, okay? So I would make sure you have bunches of these. You can even cut them multiples at a time. Right now I'm doing 2 strips at a time. I would say, I don't know, 30, 40 pieces to start should be good. It's always a good idea when you're working with plaster to prep your materials before you start using water, because sometimes if you drip water on the plaster gauze by accident, it actually activates the plaster, and then the plaster will harden and set, and then it'll actually do its thing before you even get to apply it to whatever it is you're doing. Okay, so right now I'm doing, I don't know, a couple strips at a time. I know these small scissors are annoying, but I don't like them, so I don't really care if they get covered in plaster. I'm not gonna worry about it. All right. So in just a moment, I'm going to, once my plaster is prepped, I'm gonna prep my face form, okay? Now, as you all know, the plaster, when you activate it by dipping it in water, kind of squeezing out the water and mushing the plaster into the gauze, okay? And then applying it by pushing it down on your face form. We need to have some sort of release agent from the face form. So we want the plaster to dry on the face form, but we want to be able to take the plaster off of it later on so that the face form doesn't remain underneath the plaster forever and ever, okay? So what we're going to do now, so I've got all my plaster cut, this is good. What we're gonna do now is we're going to have our face form here. I'm going to take a little bit of this goo and put it on here, okay? This is just a little bit of Vaseline, petroleum jelly, okay? And what I'm going to do is just kind of rub it into the face form, particularly eyes, nose, mouth, and things like that, because those features we want to make sure really show up on the face. We might add a little bit more pressure with the plaster there. You're gonna wanna put this all the way down, okay, to the bottom here. Okay, just to where this hits the side. So I'm gonna add the smallest smidge more. Okay. And again, I'm just looking for a thin layer. In the past, I used to use soap with this. That works fine as well. Okay. So at this point in time, I am now ready to begin to activate my plaster. Okay, so I've got my water dish here. Always make sure this is on newspaper. And what I'm going to do is take some of these small strips, okay, and I am going to activate it by dipping it into the water, okay? So I dipped it into the water. As of right now, it kind of still has this little holy pattern that's on here. All right, so it is activated, but I need to kind of work the plaster into the gauze in order to really get it to form to the face form. So before I add it, I'm going to just kind of smush the plaster into the gauze so it kind of looks creamy like so. All right, so this is what it looks like. And then I am going to start applying it. Okay, I'm pressing it to the face form all the way down, because I want those details in the face, okay? And I am gonna repeat, okay? So I dipped it in the water, taking my fingers, smushing the plaster into the gauze to activate it, okay? If you can't see any of the holes in the gauze peeking out, that is activated, and you're going to press it as smoothly to the face form as possible. So I'm overlapping these. It's important that you overlap. It's important that you work the plaster into the gauze. Okay, if you just kind of pop it on and it looks like lumpy like this, it will dry like that, and then your piece will not look like a face. Okay. And in just a moment, we're going to talk a little bit about how far down you should go on this and how many coats. So let's pretend that I have more of this done. Okay, so I'm pressing this down, pressing it flat. Perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to keep doing that over this entire face form. I'm going to go all the way to this edge right here if you have one of these. Okay, I'm not going to go over top of this little lip that's on here, this little extra part. Okay, I'm just going to take it down here. And what you're going to want to do is do at least 2 coats of this. Okay, you don't want to do like 8 coats because then it's going to be hard. It's going to be clunky. You're going to lose the details in your face. But you do want to do about 2 coats. So right now I'm working on the first one here. Okay, so once I do this everywhere, that's great. Okay. Then I'm going to start on my second coat. This will make it easier to release from the face form, okay? So if you just do 1 coat, it will not be strong enough, even when it dries, to pop it away from that face form. It'll kind of collapse. That's what we found in the past, okay? All right. For cleanup, what you're going to do is we're going to put our names on these, okay? Plaster water never gets washed down the sink or put down the drain. It does need to go in its own separate bucket, and I need to dump it outside. Plaster that's not used is going to go back in your tray. You're going to throw away your newspaper, etc.